So she decides that she's going to race over to the address that was given, which, like I just showed you, is number 345 Avellanda. I can't pronounce that avenue. The fifth floor, flat B. That's just the address. Maybe it's a setup for a separate presentation. I'm not sure, but that is the address of True Love's apartment that she will go to. So again, she's describing herself as triumphant for this discovery, and the race is on to get to Alicia's apartment before the police. Now, this is the end of chapter 8. Chapter 9, we begin a separate point of view, which is part of the question that I asked earlier. So I don't want to give too much of it away, as other people to answer, but it's a dialogue between two people. One of them, we don't exactly know who it is, but it's a very intense conversation between two people on the subject of abortion. And this is where I want to incorporate my culture reference, because it's about teenage pregnancy, excuse me, and unclean or like not exactly clinical abortion clinics. And it's a very scary thing to realize that this young lady is going through something as terrifying as, because it is terrifying, a pregnancy, and going and trying to set up her own appointment for an abortion by herself, because she feels like she cannot go to her parents, or will not go to her parents, because she is an independent woman, or a grown woman in her eyes, even though she is very much not an adult. She is a minor, and she is terrified. And also, I want to mention that previous chapters, we had a conversation between Lolly. I forgot to mention her name was Lolly. That is, you know, having this conversation with the father of her child's mother, excuse me, who basically told her, this is your problem. We don't want to deal with it. This is your problem. You handle it. So she is very much alone in this ordeal. And yes, we have conversations with her and her friend Paula, but the most that she's willing to do is be there to support her and to lend her money. So she is very much alone. That ends chapter 9, and we're in chapter 10. We're back in Inez's point of view, in which she has now successfully trespassed into True Love's apartment, armed with gloves, because she has seen many crime videos and she's done her research. She knows that if she wears gloves, she's less likely to leave fingerprints and to mark her presence there in the apartment. And then after in between this and her initial reactions and emotions, we get a brief description of the apartment, which is stylish and tidy, which explains a lot of Alicia's personality. And again, here I think it's important to mention that Inez is removing all evidence of her husband from Alicia's life. This, to mask, even though it was accidental, she is removing all evidence that her husband was involved in the crime, which is, again, kind of confusing, because you would think that a woman who has caught her husband in the act of being disloyal to her would be a little bit less likely to go through all this trouble to protect her husband, in this. But here she is, and she's sort of treating it as a game, almost. So sort of treating it as this entire crime episode of whatever, what have you, Criminal Minds or whatever. She has all this evidence. In previous chapters, we see she has done her research. She has gone through documentary after documentary. So she's done her research. So here she is in this apartment, armed with gloves. She's looking through desks and drawers and cabinets, trying to find any evidence that her husband was there or involved. In here, I want to mention a quick quote very fast. My job here was not to fan the flames, but to put out the fire. That is chapter 10, page 41. Here I also want to say that it's very interesting the way, when we're in Inez's point of view, there's a lot of mention of fire and flames, a lot. And I'm not exactly sure as to why, but maybe people in upcoming presentations can point that out. That's a very important quote, and that's crucial because she is here. She is as the savior of the situation. She is going to put this to rights. She is going to fix the situation. She's going to save her husband from being convicted. So she moves from room to room, looking for evidence, as I said, and then she finally makes it to the bedroom, which I think she's most hesitant to go into, because if anywhere, that's going to be where she's going to find evidence. So she finds a box, or excuse me, several boxes of trinkets and mementos in the bedroom closet. And within one of those boxes, Inez finds plane tickets. One of the things that she finds are two plane tickets made out to Alicia and Ernesto to Brazil. And this is where her emotions kind of fluctuate, or start to fluctuate, because she prides herself with the fact that she knows her husband out of I think it was 17 years of marriage. She knows that her husband would never go to a beach, not even with her and Lolly. So she knows that this entire relationship between her, excuse me, and Ernesto and Alicia was false, because he would never do something like that. He's not one for beaches and things. So that's her. She prides herself with knowing that, even though that's some emotion, if you will. Um, then she finds a revolver and two envelopes in the bedside table. And she's less surprised by the revolver than she is about the envelopes, because our main character believes that a woman should have a way to protect herself. And that's what she believes at this moment, what she believes is the reason for Alicia having this revolver in the bedside table. Now, what she finds in the envelopes angers her and disgusts her, because these are, black and white images of her husband in the nude. And this is some emotion. As I said, she does have some emotion, but I mean, again, she's looking for evidence of her husband cheating on her. So these images she obviously will confiscate, and the revolver she will confiscate, because that was just a quick, out of the blue, I should probably take this gun, and she took it. So I want to just incorporate a couple quotes that shows Inez's fluctuating emotions really quick. In the start of chapter 10, we get to see a lot of that. The first one being the beginning of the chapter. I felt a very dark mood come over me, and a kind of rage and desire to kill someone. That's page 41. That's in the beginning of the chapter, when she's coming in to the apartment, because she's just entered into the home of, her husband's lover. And then moving on to, as I said, the self-victory and finding the tickets. And the quote is, he never would have arranged to go to Rio, not with anyone, not even with Lolly and me. That's the pride that she feels. And then again, I admit that I was really angry, but that the emotion was quickly followed by pity. That's when she found the images of her husband in the nude. And then she felt revulsion, and then pity, because this is something that was in passing. It wasn't something that was ever going to last. And yes, this is where I'm going to move on to the continuation of Inez's investigation, if you will. And she's satisfied with her work, having taken and confiscated all the damning evidence, the revolver, the images, all of the mementos that could ever have any connection between her and her husband. And she leaves the apartment. She's very, very nearly caught. If she had stayed there 5 minutes more, she would have been caught, because as she's leaving, she sees a familiar face. She's looking, when she first entered, she sees pictures of Alicia's family, as any home would have images of their relatives and family. So she recognized one of the faces coming into the apartment. It's here that she flees and leaves across the street, like I showed you the images, to a cafe. And she's going to sit there and spy. It's kind of unclear, because it's all moving very fast, but she sees this woman go into the apartment and then come back and then speak to a man who has come by and seems very shocked and saying it's not there or something's not there. So it adds to the mystery of this novel. So when Inez arrives into the cafe, she orders a coffee just to get the waiter to back off, and she notices that the waiter is looking at her hands. And this is important to recognize because she's still wearing her gloves. So it's kind of strange for a woman to have just come across the street from an apartment wearing gloves, and this will come into play later in the novel. And I'm going to end with this quote. I couldn't afford to put a foot wrong. Things were becoming more complicated, but also more fun. She's thinking she's getting caught up with the fact that she's playing forensic scientist. She's playing the investigator. She's thinking this is a game. She's not as affected with her husband being unfaithful or the fact that her husband has just killed somebody, albeit accidentally. So she thinks of it as a game. And that is the end of my presentation. I'm going to go back to the questions now really quick if anybody wants to answer or if anybody has any other questions. Again, I'm going to pose the first question is, which two people were discussing the abortion in chapter 9, which I know I spoiled half of it, but the other half of it, if anyone, could put in a little insight. And number 2, what do you think of Inez's committing crimes herself? Because ultimately she did. Was she helping her husband, or was it her own selfish goals? Go ahead.
The first question, Lolly is the one who's going to have the abortion. I'm not sure who she was talking to. I know it's probably one of her friends.
Okay, so let me open up to the book really quick because I have it on my phone. If anybody else can help with that, it'd be great.
If not, you can give the answer.
Go ahead.
That's fine.
So I believe it's the abortion clinic secretary, if you will. She's just she's trying to the abortion clinic secretary, I don't know what you would call it, is trying to figure out who's calling or how she found them and things like that. So she found it from Belen Aguirre. I cannot pronounce that. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find the name. That's how Lolly found them. So the answer is she's speaking with the secretary of this abortion clinic, who is setting up the date, the time, how they're going to do it, and the payment between the abortion clinic and Lolly. And in reference to the second question, anybody have any answers or any other questions?
The second question, that was about if she's doing it for herself or her husband, right?
Yes, sorry. I forgot my mic was off.
I think she's doing it more for herself. She says she's doing it for her husband, but I think it's more for her to like continue to believe that she's in like this happy marriage, because the whole time she's like, well, at first she was talking about like maybe he was just going there to like end it, and he would never go on vacation and all this stuff, when there's like such clear evidence that he was having a full-blown affair with her. And then she like still chooses to, not that she believes his story, but she chooses like just to go along with it and like sympathize with him. And I think it's all kind of just to like keep the peace in her own head and her own mind, instead of like facing the facts that her husband wasn't having an affair and then accidentally killed her and then lied to her too.
She's in like serious denial.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would have said. That's what I've said, and it's true. It's true.
Yeah, she's in very strong denial and just making up all these things to please herself.
I have a
All
question,
right.
Jimena, because I think this information, this piece of information is important for chapter 9.
Okay.
What did Lolly say about her age when she was asked?
Yes, I forgot to mention that. I'm sorry. I was hoping somebody would bring that up in that question, but she lied to the secretary, the desk manager, whatever you want to call it, that she was an adult, that she was no longer a minor. And that is very obviously a lie, because when she comes in for the operation, she would have to present an ID. So there's that.
Yes, yes, and that's very important. It will show up again in a chapter. Okay, next. So that piece of information is crucial. It's crucial, I'd say. Thank you very much. Okay, well done. Just as you were presenting, I was thinking that I don't know if you have read prior to this any crime novel, mystery as they call them here in the States.
Um, I personally have. I've read and watched a lot of, crime documentaries, which again, I can see as a human, as a person who has not known anybody who's committed a crime, I
Mhm.
can see why it's easy to get caught up in playing forensic scientist or playing investigator, because it's something really, really cool. I mean, if you're into that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But it's very different for Inez, because her husband has just killed somebody. Her husband has just, has been disloyal to her. And this is a whole new level. And again, like Kelsey and Megan has said, she is in denial. And she wants to keep her peace of mind with the whole situation, which is sad, but it's gonna come back.
Mhm. Yeah, what I wanted to say, that was somehow common for all the class, not necessarily for you, Jimena. But what I wanted to say was that please keep in mind that when we are reading a crime fiction, uh, somehow all the pieces will have to fit in together. Details are not details because those details will have impacts on how the plot, continues on. And maybe the details are telling us how what twists and turns this narrative will have. Because without twists and turns, a crime novel is not a novel. So that makes it more interesting, I guess, appealing for those people who are constantly reading crime novels because they want to figure it out, right? So that's one of the major appeals of this kind of narrative, that you want to put the pieces together because there is a puzzle. Also, that the writer is playing with you, leaving traces, of something, but tricking you into believing that this is the way the story will go, right? And then all of a sudden you find out, oh my gosh, I couldn't realize, this was truly going on. And then now it makes sense that this is truly happening, so all those pieces of evidence, if you will, we need to pay attention to. One of them may be, I'm not going to mention anything, but just saying how do we read this kind of literature? That's one question. I think it should be interesting for us to explore as well. How do we read it? And now, second question, maybe, why are so many women writers interested in mystery fiction, in crime fiction? Okay, what is it that has attracted and is attracting so many female writers to this genre in particular? Isn't that interesting? Shouldn't that be a question in our minds? Just saying for the time, I'm not asking for an answer, okay? But letting you simmer in that question for a longer period of time. You know what? I'm so afraid that we're not going to have enough time for the next presentation that I would rather go and do the next one. So, Kaylee, please take over.
All right, so my pages are 49 to 60. I start on chapter 11. So in chapter 11, we see Lolly talking to someone about what's going on, and how she like needs to have an abortion, like she wants to, but she is having an issue with the ID card and she doesn't know what to do about that. And also, she has to pay all this money, but she finds, I think, she knows where her mom keeps the money, which we'll see later on that she finds out something else because she knows where her mom keeps the money. And then 50 to 51, they're talking about the school trip. And then on 53, she tries to, Ernesto's wife is trying to like chill out basically, because she like just took all this stuff from the apartment. And so she's trying to hide it. Like she was trying to hide the revolver, but it couldn't fit behind the bricks. So she put it in her car. And since she couldn't really chill out, she starts to like clean. And Ernesto doesn't come home until like 9 o'clock. So she just keeps like cleaning, try to like keep her mind focused on like other things besides what just happened. But then we realized that she couldn't wait any longer. So she says on page 54 that I decided to take the bull by the horns and go to Ernesto's office. So she just like couldn't wait anymore. She's like, I need to know what he's gonna say to me. And when she gets there, she sees the brown-haired girl that she saw coming out of that apartment. And we find out that the brown-haired girl is Alicia's, Soriana's wife. Not wife, sorry, niece.
Okay.
And her niece is concerned about her, which is, you know, because she doesn't answer any calls and she's not hearing from her. And then once she walks into Nestle's office, she basically lies to him and tells him that like she wasn't there before. Which was one of my questions. Sorry if I asked those. So one of my questions was, did Ernesto's wife go to the office before she saw him? Which we just found out that she didn't go to the office before. And then my second question is, how is Lolly going to get the money? Which I quickly mentioned just a while ago. And so she walks into the office and she says, I forgot to let them know that you were coming until lunch, so I come to the center way, which is on 54. And then, where am I at now? On 55, she says that I've got afternoon free and it seems silly to leave until tonight. You look so worried this morning. And then we find out her name is Ives. I think that's how you say it. Ines.
Well, in Spanish, you go Ines.
Ines. Okay.
Ines. Mm-hmm.
Ines. And then on page 56, which was really interesting to see, Ernesto says, thank you, my love. And she says, he said, my love. Ernesto had never called me his love, even the first time he tried to talk me into bed, which is very interesting because did he really ever love her? Or does he love her? Because if he never said my love, like that's a very interesting, thing to say that he doesn't normally say. And then he tells sorry, make sure I had this right. She says on page 57, the fact that Ernesto was lying to me was obvious, but that didn't matter as much as the reason why he was lying. Ernesto was lying because he loved me. It was as basic and straightforward as that. So she believes that he loves her, even though he has never told her until now that he loved her. And then he basically on 57 starts to tell her about what happened between him and his secretary. He says, I would have told you about this, but something has happened. It was her. She said that if I didn't meet her halfway, an hour later, that by the Lake Palmermo, she would do something crazy. Lucinda couldn't let that woman go and kill herself. And so basically, if you didn't go there, like something bad would happen to her, but something did happen to her anyway. She did die. And then she responds to her husband, oh, of course not, Ernesto. How could I not understand that? And so basically she's very understanding of him and is like not mad at him for what happened. And that is on page 58. It continues. And so he says, I went there, I lied to you, forgive me. I didn't have a meeting, but I had to stop her. So he tells her what happened and how she leaned in and tried to kiss him. And so he like pushed her away, and that's how she broke her neck. And she hit her neck, and then on page 59, we find out that he did throw her into the lake, but he didn't just like throw her into the lake. He says, no, I didn't drag her. I took one of those high boats, put her onto it, rowed out to the middle of the lake, and well, so he rowed her out into the lake, which is very interesting. And he says, I would like to be able to say that we spent that night together at home, that I didn't go out. So he wants her to lie for him and wants to be like, this didn't happen, like pretend that everything's normal. And she's on board with it. She is totally fine. She says, of course, I agree. I confess ourselves, it's fine. And then we go on, and that just keeps happening. And on page 60, she says, then he kissed me on the mouth in a way that he hadn't kissed me for years. For years. That's like wow, like this, he's showing like emotion, like he said, my love, like he kissed her like this, that like hasn't happened in a while. So it's very interesting. And then Ernesto was able to change the situation much better than I could have thought he could. She was like happy at the end of 60 that he confessed to her and basically told her everything that happened. Yeah. And that's it. So the two questions, if you guys want to answer, I kind of answered them a little bit, but how is Lolly going to get the money? And did Ernesto's wife go to the office before he saw her? If you guys want to answer.
So in answering the how she's going to get the money question, she said that she had a little bit from savings, Lolly, and that her friend Paula was going to lend her, I think, $200 or $300, and she was going to steal the rest from her mom. And yeah, I'm not gonna say anything more. I was gonna go on, but never mind. But yeah, that's where she plans on getting the money.
Yeah, and I think interestingly, Lali feels entitled to her mother's money for a reason, right? She says, "I'm somehow, yes, I'm stealing, but I'm not stealing from my mom."
Oh, because her mother steals from her husband. So
That's
she says, well, she can't.
mm,
Yeah, she says she can't do anything about it because it's not her money, and like she steals herself. So why is she gonna stop me?
right. So there is a reason for her to do that. That's not my mom's money. Mhm. Can you repeat the second question?
Yeah. So did Ernesto's wife, did she go to the office before she saw him?
Yeah, she went to the office before she saw him, because she wanted to see if there was any notes between him and the true love, and then she wanted to get the address of the woman's apartment so she could go there and see if there's anything else. So that's why she did go to the office beforehand,
Mhm.
because she knew that her husband wouldn't be there until after lunch, I think, or before
Yeah.
lunch. So
Yeah.
that's
I
why.
think it was after lunch, or yeah, until lunch.
Um, yeah, one question for you, Kelly. Chapter 15, right? We have this conversation. Um, could you yourself identify who was talking to Lali here?
Uh, oh, I skipped over that. Yeah, sorry.
Because
Um,
this conversation repeats the previous conversation in the book somehow.
yeah. So she,
If not, that's okay. But I think it would make sense to say the name.
uh,
So we have Lali on one side, and on the other side is
what is it? Not, who's on the other side?
I can answer if you don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's her best friend Paula.
Okay. I knew it was one of her friends. I wasn't sure which friend it was.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, on this, while they're talking, it finds out, I think, this is where she finds out. Yeah, she finds out that her dad is like possibly seeing another girl because when she goes to find the money, she finds letters from True Love that her mom put in there. And she basically is like mad at her father. And which explains like in the beginning, she was talking about how like he was acting weird and she thought it was because like he was suspecting that like, oh, like I'm pregnant, but that really isn't it. Like he was acting weird because he killed someone. And um and maybe she's thinking now that like, oh, he's acting weird because he's sleeping with someone else. And she says, um she's being a complete moron. My mother even worse than my dad on page 68. Um,
Do you remember what is the word she Lali uses to identify the person her dad is meeting with
um,
when is having this affair with? Do you remember? Because she doesn't. Of course, she cannot mention a name.
yeah,
Do you remember the word she uses to identify this person? I don't want to say it. I prefer you to say it.
I'm trying to think. mean, she says, yes, they're a pair of hypocrites.
So my dad is having an affair with, I don't remember exactly the, oh yeah, on page 67.
She says, my dad's seeing some girl. Oh, he always looks saintly. He's a bastard.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that she says girl.
Yeah.
She doesn't say woman.
Yeah. So it's like she thinks that she's younger. Like,
right?
She's not like a woman.
Yeah, whereas the mother, as far as I know, has never said this word, girl. She's, oh, it's Alicia, it's a woman. So we have a disparity of approaches here. How come? How come the daughter, sees this woman as a girl, and her mom sees the woman as a woman, as an adult? Isn't much,
because like the age range, like she's younger and her mom's older.
Yeah, so. Yeah. What I'm hinting here is that maybe the woman, in fact, is not an adult but a girl, and we will have to read more to find out. But my point is, by saying that, Lali gives you a clue. It's a little detail that the writer is putting in there, but it's already giving you a clue as to what will happen later. And then you can come back, to read the chapter, and you can say, okay, so that's why maybe this was a clue as to whatever, okay? It doesn't have to be the word girl, it can be something else, but she constantly, Piñeiro, is putting clues here and there, and then we can retrace our steps and see how they come together. That's all I'm saying. Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Okay. I think we have like 3 minutes, which is great because I will be able to show you the video. Okay, I should be able to show you the video that I wanted to show you, which is short to close the class. So here we go. Buenos Aires from above. Of course, this is a drone view of Buenos Aires. This is Avenida de Mayo, right? Avenida de Mayo, the main avenue in Buenos Aires. Notice how huge it is. Major theater, opera, music, but tango also. This is one major soccer team for Argentina, River Plate. This is the major liberator from the Spaniards, José de San Martín. So more modest side of the city, right? Humble, working class neighborhood, as opposed to the downtown locations in Buenos Aires. So I'll see you all Thursday, and we'll continue with our conversations about this fantastic novel by Claudia Piñeiro. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, Professor. Oh, by the way, did you get a haircut?
Yes, I did. Yes, I
It
did.
looks nice.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I try my
Have a
best
good day.
to look presentable. Take care.